All right, welcome back to the Breakfast Connect right here on Africa Business Radio. And it's time for us to get into our Media Wednesday guest segment for today, which is promising to be very, very informative because I'll be having with me Dolapo Kukoyi, who is the partner, Detail Commercial Solicitors. Of course, she leads the firm's power and gas to power practice. Her transactional experience includes advertising the Central Bank of Nigeria and NERC on the 213 billion naira intervention fund for the Nigeria electricity supply industry. She's also advising NESP on electrification planning, sustainable energy access, and renewable energy and energy efficiency investment. It's good to have you on here on the show. Thank you for joining us, Dolapo. All right, so today is the day 2 of the energy series. Day 1 was chaired by Mr. Frank Ayibogu, the chairman of Business Day Media Limited. What are we to expect from today's series?
Well, quite a bit, and just to give a bit of background as to, the theme for the series and why we're looking at. You have seen from day 1, the theme is, generally harnessing Nigeria's energy potential for the future. So we are not dwelling on looking back, but looking forward. And what can take us forward in terms of our energy, potential as a country. So it's going to be a lot about the future and what is necessary for the future, less on the past, more around what the lessons have been. And it's an interesting time. It's a pivotal time because tomorrow Nigeria will be 60. 7 years ago, we did what I call undoubtedly the biggest privatization, program of our electricity sector. And it's been 15 years since we, as a nation, we enacted the Electric Power Sector Reform Act. So it is indeed a time where we say, where do we go, from here? It's obviously a troubled sector. A lot has happened. Right. A lot is happening. But you undoubtedly, for a country of 200 million, over 200 billion people, it's become so imperative that access to power is a right. It's a need for every Nigerian, and we need to do everything that is required to get us there. Right. So it's going to be interesting. We are going to be talking about the pinpoints. We are going to be talking about a number of things around innovation in the sector. We can't continue doing things the way we have. Looking at lessons learned from innovations that are currently happening. Of course, one of the first things we are going to be talking about is one of the first people we are going to be talking to is a very key agency to the entire success of the power sector, and that's the Nigeria Electricity Regulatory Commission. We are going to be talking to the Commissioner for Legal Licensing, and Regulation, basically to talk through, some issues that are going through the minds of Nigerians. So it's going to be very interesting. And then the last session, we are going to talk about the role of states as well in taking us forward. Is it time for states to take their destinies into their own hands and provide power to their people within their constituencies? Lastly, we will then have a session where we talk about, generally, how do we take the sector forward? So we are hoping it will be more thought-provoking and solution-oriented rather than talking more about the challenges. So yeah, that's what you should expect.
It's going to be an interesting session indeed. Now, just a little bit away from that, from your experience in the power sector, and I know that there is not one particular thing, but in terms of importance and priority now, what do you think has been the main reasons Nigeria has been unable to meet its electric power needs?
That's a very interesting question because there are a number of things.
Right.
There are a number of things, and honestly, I can't say it's one thing, but I think that one of the issues why Nigeria hasn't quite gotten there yet in terms of our power sector and in terms of energy access, one of the paramount reasons, particularly for our own grid, is the viability of the sector. I always say this, that money follows the path of least resistance. It's obvious that there's a huge deficit of infrastructure. I mean, we started this privatization process since the law was enacted well, at least we had a law since 2005. That's been 15 years. The discos and the gencos have been privatized for how long now? 7 years, and we still have this problem. One of the key issues is viability, because there's obviously a dearth of infrastructure. There had been pre-privatization so much, in terms of lack of funding into the sector. And let me say the damage that has been done for maybe, let's say, over 50 years as a country, you don't want to fix immediately. One of the key things that needs to be fixed is viability. And what do I mean by viability? It's having a structure, contractual, investment, environment, regulatory, where an investor would look in and say, yes, I can put money into this. So that's I would say that if you ask me what, yes. And in viability, there are many things. I would say that that's the key issue.
But then again, the country has put in a lot of money into this sector. Nigeria has spent an estimated $2 billion in an attempt to make the power sector work. And just recently, the World Bank just approved another $750 million to intervene in the development of the sector. But how far do you think this latest results-based intervention fund will go?
Well, I am hopeful that it will go some steps, but it's been obvious to all of us that intervention funds, without straightening out the viability, do not resolve the issues.
Yeah,
I want to believe that that's the reason why this 750 million we're speaking about, it's results based, which means that the lenders need to see some results and some restructuring of the sector, and some things happening that are precursors to putting in this fund. So I think that, as I said, money will always come when we make the sector viable. The key thing is in government making a decision to ensure that this sector will be viable and it will allow investment. You know that with utilities, with things like power, it can become politicized because it's government responsibility to provide power to every citizen. And it is the role of NLC and workers and every Nigerian to say that you should provide me power. So government sometimes is in a tough place. But the key issue is that it's not really the intervention funds. It is more making the sector viable, and then the intervention funds will produce the results that they should, and even more.
Right. All right. Just yesterday morning, we saw organized labor and the federal government come to a compromise on the issue of electricity tariff. And this, however, is not competitive. Argue the discos, according to what discos are saying, they say it's not competitive. The labor unions believe that the average working Nigerian should not be subjected to further tariff, especially during a time like this with the pandemic and or whatnot. How can we find common ground on the issue?
Well, you hear more from the horse's mouth. One of the horses.
Right.
Today.
Who exactly will be speaking on this one?
So I will be speaking to Mr. Daki Akene. We will be having a session this morning. He is the Commissioner for Legal, Regulatory and Licensing for the Nigeria Electricity Regulatory Commission. So we will be speaking with him today. And as you know, an order was issued yesterday to make effect this 14-day suspension. So we'll be hearing from him. But what I want to say to this is that there is never a right time to increase the tariffs. That NERC actually did put this down and implemented this service reflective tariff was even a compromise by itself. It was a compromise by itself because, with the pandemic, and the fact that they said it would be service reflective, which means that if you don't get certain hours of power, then you shouldn't be paying. But power comes at a price. And it has to be paid for the same way whatever it is that we buy, it comes at a price. So I would say there's never a good time Well, we all have to bite the bullet at some point if we want our power sector to work, if we want over 200 million Nigerians to have access to power. So that's what I'd say.
All right, now just before I let you go, tell us what to expect from Detail Commercial Solicitors in the oil and gas space.
When you say what to expect, okay.
Yeah.
So we do work in the oil and gas space. Just to say a little about Detail Commercial Solicitors. So we are a firm of commercial solicitors. We are reputed as the foremost firm to focus on non-courtroom practice. What we do, we are basically we basically do transaction law. We are a corporate commercial firm and we do a lot of transaction law. So our practice areas include oil and gas. That's our energy practice. And our energy practice is power and oil and gas. So when you ask, what should we expect? What should you expect from Detail? Well, we've been very active in the space in terms of gas to power, in terms of oil asset acquisitions, in terms of developments in the gas space. We belong to the Nigeria Gas Association, and we've been leading in terms of thought leadership in this area. Last week, I had another session, with the Nigerian Economic Summit, talking about gas utilization and commercialization. So I would say that in terms of what to expect, we are here. We are here advising clients. Our clients range from exploration and production companies to clients in the downstream, in the midstream sector. So we are here. We are here.
All right. Thank you so much. Right. We can see that. Thank you so much, Dolapo Kukoyi, for joining us this morning on the show.
Thank you. It was a pleasure.
Right now, Dolapo Kukoyi, she is a partner at Detail Commercial Solicitors and leads the firm's power and gas to power practice. She's a recognized leading lawyer, corporate M&A and Project Finance by the International Financial Law Review. All right, the Breakfast Connect show continues with the Startup Corner. We'll be right back.